That is the White House. Of course, when Joe Biden looks at that building, he goes, wait a minute, hold on, give me a second. He's got nothing. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. Hey, Chicago, get ready. It looks like the Trump administration getting set to send federal agents and possibly the National Guard into the Windy City. Crime, obviously a major problem there in Chicago. Of course, if you listen to Chicago's mayor and Illinois' Governor J.B. Pritzker, they say they've got it under control. Really? That's like me saying I have my late night snacking under control. Both are false. For more, let's bring in Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, the Department of Homeland Security. Take a breath. That's Tricia McLauchlan. Tricia, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Hey, so what about the National Guard in Chicago? Should we get ready for some news this week, Tricia? I know you don't want to get ahead of the president. I know, ...
You're on it, David. But absolutely. We have ICE and CBP agents in every sanctuary city across the country. J.B. Pritzker has absolutely failed the people of Chicago. We have MS-13 gang members, known or suspected terrorists, convicted murderers, rapists, walking around Chicago with impunity. Since J.B. Pritzker took office, only 8 detainers that we've lodged have been honored. That is staggering considering the number of criminal illegal aliens who are walking around terrorizing Chicagoans. And so President Trump and Secretary Noem are going to take action where J.B. Pritzker refuses to protect his citizens and his constituents.
Well, I mean, he would argue, though, as you know, that crime is on the decline. I believe I heard a quote that it was the lowest it's been maybe since the 90s. So they say, well, good enough is good enough, right? I mean, the few dead people, yeah, it happens.
These Democrat politicians can cherry pick statistics all they want. It really reminds me of the 2024 election and the argument with inflation in the economy. People saying, oh, inflation is at record lows. Well, the American people aren't feeling it. And Americans in Chicago, when they walk around, they're experiencing crime firsthand. They know their neighbors. They know their friends are experiencing carjackings and robbery in broad daylight. That's not something that should be happening in an American city, especially a great city like Chicago. So if J.B. Pritzker won't do his job, then President Trump will do it for him.
Tricia, I'm going to do similar to David. I'm not going to ask you to get ahead of the president, but I am going to ask you to confirm reports that there are considerations or at least talks being had about a potential strike on drug cartels inside Venezuela. CNN and other outlets are reporting that these discussions are happening. Can you confirm that?
I'll let Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the President of the United States, make that decision to make that announcement. But I can speak to that strike that happened just a few days ago where we struck those narco-terrorists, 11 of these monsters who are actively trying to bring deadly drugs into the United States of America. If this was Al-Qaeda or this was the Taliban that was trying to bring over weapons or drugs onto U.S. soil to kill Americans on our own land, every Democrat politician should be praising this because they're trying to inflict pain and terrorize Americans. President Trump and Secretary Noem and the Secretary of War are not going to ignore this. They're not going to turn a blind eye to terrorists trying to enter the United States and bring deadly drugs with them.
Hey, Tricia, I want to play Cory Booker. I know, I'm sorry about that. I want to apologize up front now. But here's Cory Booker talking about this whole Venezuela strike and that it is unconstitutional. The constitutional scholar, Cory Booker. Take a look.
A massive expansion of presidential authority against the rules that abide by the use of military force. And it's another example of Donald Trump breaking laws within the United States, giving no justification for his action. All that we've heard so far is that he might be relying on the 9/11 authorization for the use of military force, and that is outrageous. And folks need to understand, as the president continues to expand his authority in a way that is very authoritarian, that we all should be concerned.
Curious of your reaction. I'm just glad he didn't speak 26 hours straight about that. Your reaction.
President know what the heck he's talking about. All he can say is Donald Trump bad, Donald Trump wrong. What Donald Trump is actually doing, the President of the United States is doing, he's protecting the American people. We know that at least 100,000 Americans die every single year from fentanyl. Thanks to President Trump and Secretary Noem, the border is now closed and fentanyl trafficking across our border is down a staggering 60%. But now these cartels are getting increasingly desperate, and about 80% of these deadly drugs who are coming into the United States go through our maritime borders. President Trump is well aware of this, and he's taking actual action to stop it. Unlike these Democrat politicians like Cory Booker, who would rather see Americans lose their lives to the poisoning of these fentanyl and other deadly drugs, President Trump is actually going on the offense with shock and awe, and he's taking action.
Do we have any numbers on that yet? Do we have any numbers on fentanyl deaths and how they've declined since President Trump has taken action? Because in all of the 4 years of Joe Biden, those numbers just continued to increase, and we all continued to hear about friends and family members who lost loved ones because of the inaction of the Biden administration.
No, absolutely, Gina. We're actively working with HHS to try and get these national statistics, but we have looked at from a state-by-state perspective. Ohio fentanyl deaths have plummeted about 56%, and we have been looking at other states as well. Wisconsin, way down. West Virginia, way down, but we'll definitely come back to you with more of those numbers, because this is really, President Trump's actions are saving lives, and that really makes a difference to every American. Red, blue, it doesn't matter. This isn't a partisan issue. This is an American issue.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that real quickly, Terrence. This isn't just because of the direct action that President Trump is taking, which is fantastic, but it is also because if you don't have people crossing the border, they're not smuggling it in, which is, I think people might forget to take into account.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll also add, that's why we're seeing these drug cartels get increasingly desperate and try to use our maritime borders to bring drugs to the United States, because we don't have border crossings, because they're at a record low, really at zero. We have our Border Patrol agents on the ground who are able to not just be stuck at the processing centers, but they're able to stop those drug traffickers, those human traffickers, those drug mules, to make sure that those poisonous drugs don't get into our communities.
To your point, what is next in terms of not only keeping the border secure, but also getting the deportations up? What is, to tout to make a Star Trek reference, what is the next frontier as it relates to securing our border and continuing to push the President Trump's illegal immigration policies?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, that big, beautiful bill has passed, and that's given ICE and Border Patrol the funding that we very much needed to increase our bed space. We just opened Louisiana a lockup down in Louisiana at the Angola prison that opens up about 450 beds. We have Speedway Slammer in Indiana. Of course, we have Alligator Alcatraz in Florida. And so we're increasing these geographically diverse places for these detention spaces. And that's so important for us to be able to turbocharge our arrest numbers. But even more than that, it's also getting that ICE and CBP workforce up. We have about 120,000 applications for ICE. We have a number of final offers out to get patriotic Americans on board to help us make these arrests and really turbocharge those numbers. And so we're very optimistic. We're already seeing an increase in our arrest numbers, and we're going to continue to see that as we get more ICE workforce on the ground in these sanctuary cities, particularly that have become magnets for these criminal illegal aliens, for these gang members, for these known as suspected terrorists, because they know that these Democrat politicians won't do anything about it. They will let them walk around with impunity and terrorize their constituents without any consequences. But President Trump and Secretary Noem won't stand for that any longer.
Tricia, real quick, because we're completely out of time, but I just have one more question. I was at Alcatraz yesterday, and people were asking, is President Trump still considering Alcatraz doing something there? Is that still on the table or no? Just real quick.
I think anything's on the table at this point. President Trump really looks at things outside of the box, so stay tuned.
All right. Thanks.
Stay tuned. Very nice. The not fake news segment with Tricia McLauchlan. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Tricia.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, we've all been told breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I can confirm that. But what happens if we skip it and we eat a late dinner? Those shocking details next on American Sunrise. Back in a moment, everybody. Happy Monday.